fundraising is a full-time job.
What is the one painful truth you think founders don't understand?
They try to go after valuations too early.
The whole concept of you as an investor investing in an unknown founder is the fact that you're betting and they are betting as well.
We go after problems and not after sectors. At IPV, what we are saying is you don't need to hire an investment banker. You don't need a connect to us. You don't need to find a via media. You don't need a reference to be able to connect to us personally, etc. We are trying to solve that pain and that hard work for a founder.
How do you reconcile the community first DNA of IPV with the structure and rigor that a VC fund might require?
I first met Vinay Bansal as an early stage founder looking for funds. And like most founders, I walked in hoping for capital and walked out with clarity. Vinay is the founder and CEO of Inflection Point Ventures, one of India's largest angel investing networks that has screened over 30,000 startups and funded just a fraction of them, the top 1%. With 2 decades of experience across GE, TPG, and Wildclaw, he's seen how businesses are built from the inside out. Today, through IPV and his new venture fund, Physis, he's redefining how India invests with rigor, transparency, and a deep belief that grit matters more than hype. In this conversation, we talk about what founders get wrong about fundraising, how investors really think, and the mindset shift from receiving a salary to paying one.
We of course know each other for a very long time. You were the first investor who kind of trusted me in my ideas. But today I wanted to spend a little bit more time knowing you and knowing how you think about investment and what your founder journey has been like. And let's start right at the beginning. So you spent 2 decades in corporate finance before you got into startups. What was the inflection point for you which made you kind of do that switch?
Sure. I think before those 2 decades, as I kind of prepared for my exams and paid for my fees, I started an entrepreneurial venture to pay for my fees, right? And I used to teach from that perspective. That's when I knew the power of entrepreneurship, a power of making your own career, etc., and power of paying your own expenses. So that's where the seeds were sown.
Mm-hmm.
Once, of course, I went into corporate life. I spent a lot of time learning. I spent a lot of time sharpening the skills and a lot of time in learning management and leadership. So yeah, I mean, that was, I think, what gives me a sense of getting into entrepreneurship once again. And I think working through these corporates, and I have not worked in too many corporates, maybe 2 or 3, right? They allowed me to learn a lot of stuff on how the businesses are run. Especially, I would say, the last 2 stints with, or I would say 3 stints with GE, TPG, and Wildcraft. They honed different aspects of my training in entrepreneurship.
From all of that learning, once you got into IPV, what was the stuff that you had to unlearn?
I think a lot of things one has to unlearn when you get into entrepreneurship. One is whole mindset of letting go of your monthly checks. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But if you go a little bit deeper, I think the whole mindset of shifting from getting paid to paying others. It is from receiving a salary to paying the salary. A shift of what do I get from my job? What can I give to my people, to my stakeholders in business? An employee mindset to an owner mindset. A taking mindset to a giving mindset, and also a huge mindset of reducing your own expenses. And therefore, now you start to come last in the order, right? So I think that's the biggest shift that one has to do. And you must make something for your employees to get paid. Otherwise, they will not stay. You need to learn HR now. You need to learn marketing now. You need to learn sales. You need to learn customer service. And you have to be the customer service representative. And you have to learn to do everything yourself to begin with. So a lot of these things shift in the mindset and perspective, and therefore a lot of unlearnings as well now.
In the first 6 months, did it feel like freedom when you started IPV, or did it feel like free fall, or what was the hardest skill to learn?
I think we were both, I think, right? I mean, we started, let's say 2019 end and 2020, right?
Yeah.
Not even 6 months. The markets are in a tailspin. Markets fell dramatically. No VC was cutting check. Uh, we had people, we didn't know, how to handle that. But I think you learn to be agile in that free fall. You learn how things can get difficult, and if you can handle that, then you learn confidence as well for the future. So I think it's both. It's hard, and it's a little bit of independence, and then it's a little bit of sense of achievement that when you come out of that difficult thing, you feel that you are confident and you can do or handle difficult situations also.
Yeah. From 2019 till today, I was trying to put some numbers together. I think you've screened some 25,000 startups till now, out of which 250 is what you've invested in IPV. And the goal at all times, and obviously we also remember when through our conversations, was that you wanted to democratize how angel investing is looked at within the country. Um, but at the same time, you also have really, really strict standards for founders in terms of quality, in terms of, what kind of founders you do select. How do you balance the two?
I mean, that's right. I mean, broadly numbers are right, but they're till March 25. So we would have screened about 30,000 so far.
Okay.
And you see our funding rate is less than 1%. It has actually gone down even further over the last 1 year to about 0.4%. That's the intensity of selection. And as you would know, we are very closely watching founders to fund. Uh, we sometimes ask difficult questions and sometimes personal questions also, right?
Yes.
To understand the founders better. And you will recall I had some of them for you as well when
Yes, I remember, and I recall also that I probably should have thought a little bit more about those questions.
So yeah, for us, founders remain a very key aspect of funding, and we understand some founders will not be where we want them to be, but if it that they can get where we want them to be, we are willing to kind of support them and work with them in that journey as well.
In the initial days, the first 10 or 20 investments that you made, were there any lessons or were there any learnings that shaped how you evaluate today?
Yeah, I mean, not just the first 20, but every investment that we do, more so from failures than from successes, I think, which is natural. But if you talk about the first 20, I think we learned a few things. One, when you're looking at a founder and the founder is trying to change the world in a certain sector, how deeply technically qualified is that founder in that sector? Sometimes founders start business because they face a personal problem, right? Let's say I'm accountant and I face a personal problem traveling in an aircraft which shakes a lot. And I say, okay, I've solved this problem of, you know, a shaking aircraft.
Yeah.
I'm not going to succeed in it, right? Because I'm not technically qualified to understand aircrafts and why they shake, right? But if I'm an accountant and I come back and say, okay, I want to change how the angel investing is done in the country, probably I'll do a better job here because I understand accounting, I understand businesses, etc., etc. So one of the failures taught us that founders should be technically qualified in the area of the business that they're trying to do, especially the deep tech business. So now one of our criteria is not only ability to learn fast, but also have the expertise in the area in which they are going in. The second thing we learned is that, founders need to have a lot of grit to succeed. Many founders throw in the towel very early. And we had some of those situations. Today, we judge the founders on grit far more than we did in the first 20.
How would you do that?
See, I think the grit comes from passion, right? Why are you solving a certain problem? The grit comes from the goal that you are going after. If a founder is going after making a lot of money, probably a decent goal, but will not hold you in great stead when the money runs out. Founder is gonna likely to throw in the towel. Right? If the founder is going into the business to prove to somebody that he or she can also run a business, he's going in for the wrong reasons. So the reasons and the depth of that reason, first connecting to the founder is what tells us the grit. Second is how has he or she faced failures in the past and how have they overcome through it. That tells you the persistence and the ability of the founder to overcome failures. And third is how well do they bring their mental, emotional, and intelligence, a part of their personality, put together as a common force to solve a problem, right? All of these things determine a grit of a founder. But yeah, you can't really determine everything on day one.
Yeah, you can't determine everything on day one. And I think on day one, even from the founder's perspective, there is a lot of, yes, I will do it. And unknowns haven't yet come in, and you don't really know how you're going to respond to that. So I accept that. But the second question that comes to my mind from this is that when you're looking at pre-seed, and I know that in IPV you do a lot of pre-seed and seed, and specifically in tech. So for instance, I was talking to someone who's trying to create a solar powered UPS of sorts. They're fairly young, so they don't have that much work experience, and so therefore, how they look at failures and how all of those things haven't really kind of shown up. So in that situation, is it only about the technical ability? How do you judge leadership then?
Sure. Chanakya said it long back, Honar Vidwan ke hote chikne paat, right? So you actually start to see leadership, grit, a lot of these things early in life. It's not that you can't see that in a 15-year or in a 20-year-old child. Think about it. When Sachin Tendulkar gets selected in a national team at 14, there must be something in him to get selected at 14 in the national team. It just can't be technical. Right? So, so I know what you're going to ask or where you are heading to, but a lot of these things can be tested by asking the right questions. Sometimes by asking their family members, sometimes they ask their teachers. Teachers see kids in school every day, see through multiple situations, right?
Yeah.
So your ecosystem around you can give out a lot of such hints. But you're right. Not everything is final by the time we see very young kids. But yeah, the signs start to show up early, and the rest is, how much we align with the founder, how much we help the founder develop some of those strengths and skills as well.
Yeah. No, and I mean, at the end of the day, the whole concept of finding someone, the whole concept of you as an investor investing in an unknown founder is the fact that you're betting and they are betting as well. So there is some amount of information that will eventually reveal itself. But anyways, now I wanted to kind of move from this democratized angel investment process into the VC fund that you have now launched, which is Physis. How do you reconcile the community first DNA of IPV with the structure and rigor that a VC fund might require?
Sure. I think when we launched IPV also, we launched it with the structure and rigor of a VC fund or a PE fund. Right. And that's why we select only 0.4, 0.5% of the we look at. Second is when you have done a lot of deals in IPV, you have learned along the way as well, right?
Yeah.
Now you're far sharper, far clearer, etc. when you look at larger deals. The benefit that comes with larger deals is now a lot of data is also available, right? Because their businesses have reached a certain scale, they are producing certain numbers, the founder fit is easily available, the go to market is now available, the business gross margins, net margins are now available, product fit is therefore available, etc. So actually, later stage is a little bit easier than earlier, right? And that's why you see a lot more players in later stage and not less players in earlier stage. And players in earlier stage that they don't, they are not that successful or they don't last long also, right? So I think earlier stage is a far difficult decision than later. In fact, investing in even later stage in public listed market becomes even more easier.
Yeah, because all factors are taken care of. Yeah, I agree.
History is available also now.
Yeah.
So that's the piece. However, why we did category 2 is now we had the experience and the understanding. We had a deep understanding of the Indian market. We had a deep, I would say, systems that were set and the processes that were available, and a deep relationships in the ecosystem that were available, deep set of experts that were available to us to handle even larger companies. And of course, now we were helping out even bigger investors, moving away from or adding to the investor class of professionals and CXO, we started adding family offices, HNIs, and financial institutions as well. It is a natural progression, I would say, into larger ticket sizes, but it cannot be reversed. Fund doing larger ticket sizes, it's very difficult for them to do smaller ticket sizes in earlier stage because they're used to data, they're used to GTM, they're used to product fit, they're used to founder fit, etc. And suddenly they're like, wow, I don't have this. I'm uncomfortable doing early stage.
Yeah.
So that's the perspective on how do you move from one stage to other.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Which is with the thesis very clearly, late stage and early stage would be a completely different animal. But at the same time, the question that comes is that what do you see different in the companies other than the complexity and the fact that there is history available? How is managing the founders a different game in the VC space versus early stage?
Very different. See, now the founder has matured. Now the founder has his own learnings, etc. He's built a decent sized business already. Now we don't need to teach the founder as much, right? We can be far more confident of the founder as well. So those things are different. Now the founders are far more stronger. They are getting multiple term sheets from multiple people.
Yeah.
Right? It's like in IPV, we teach a kid of a high school. By the time we hit Physis, he's already a graduate.
Right.
So the mindset changes. The way you will handle a young child is very different from the way you will handle a graduate. Now you will not ask too many questions. You will not direct many directions, right? So those things, and therefore we have to adapt to that style. We just need to make sure that the founder now we are betting on is far stronger, far mature, and far confident in what they're building. By the way, many founders come from those section or those deals which we funded them during IPV stage also. And we've seen their growth and the learning curve as well. So it becomes even easier to fund them once now they've moved from a school to a college.
Yeah. And I would assume that those are the most fulfilling relationships because you've seen them grow along with you.
Absolutely.
Personally, which relationship do you like better, the early stage or later stage?
Personally, early stage graduating to later stage, I like, right? It's like seeing your kids go through school to college, right? And then to jobs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that you'll probably fall there. And if I was to look at IPV from the lens of founders themselves, I wanted to ask you, there is this whole conversation around fee structures and valuation methods, and that is something that that you have had questions on. But you've never changed that. What was the reason for the way that you have structured your fee structure, and how has it helped?
Sure. So we have changed the fee structure in Physis. It's a very different fee structure.
Of course.
IPV is a very different fee structure. So if you look at it, when a person is finding a job and you are an employer, you are paying the person to do the job. No longer you are charging the person that you would charge in a school. Right? You will not charge. Second is, at IPV, we were building an ecosystem play, which meant that a raw founder is like the child mortality rate of India 20, 30, 50 years back. Huge amount of mortality in the early stage.
Yeah, sure.
If you have to change that, and they say it takes a village to grow a child, right? Now you need that village to be available to make the founder a better place, the business a better place, the mentorship to be different, etc., etc. Right? Now, early stage, the benefit is largely going to the founder. No investor is willing to invest in an early stage founder. Very few, right? And that's why there was a huge mortality rate early on. And therefore, in the early stage, the cost of education is paid by the student. In later stage in Physis, the cost is paid by us as investors because now we know the founder is ready, we want to invest behind it, and we want to earn from it. We are not going to teach the founder now, as we spoke earlier.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit on the founder's head at all now, right? Therefore, the time that goes from various experts, the time that goes from various supporting agencies, we have multiple tie-ups, let's say with Hindustan Times or with AWS, with Google, with Microsoft, and with many experts, many mentors, all of that comes into play at IPV, not at Physis. Right?
All right.
For example, at IPV, we take on the role of an investment banker. because no investor banker will support a startup who is trying to raise 2 crores, right? At
Right.
Physis, we don't. At IPV, we take the role of a mentor and a guide. At Physis, we don't. At IPV, or let me put it this way, at Physis, a founder pays for his legal fees, legal due diligence, and a financial due diligence to a big four, right?
Yeah.
And the big four will charge 10, 20, 30 lakhs, 50 lakhs for that. At IPV, when a founder is coming in, he can't afford paying big four all of these costs, but the DD has to get done. So founder ends up paying due diligence cost. What we are trying to do is that the cost of due diligence is not that high, we bring it down, right? And therefore, we had to put up a separate DD team in place at a far lower cost, but still at that quality of a VCPE due diligence. As I said earlier, right? We never built IPV to run like IPV. We built it very strong rigor of due diligence like a VC or a PE fund. Now, if that has to be done, that those costs exist. Now, our job is how do you cut those costs down to very low, right? Similarly, you have other things, let's say like an AWS credits or a Google or a Hindustan Times credits, etc. Now, these we don't provide to Physis. We don't need to. They have enough money, they raise enough money, and they can pay it on an arm's length basis. These are not available to early stage founders. Right? So there's a huge difference from a perspective of founders, as you said, at IPV and at Physis. Right? So here it's founders' need largely, and we are coming in to support that and solve for the early stage mortality to a late stage growth. Right? Even when the same founder shifts from an early stage to late stage, the fee structure changes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it will be incorrect to say that the fee structure hasn't changed. It has completely transforms when it goes from an IPV to Physis.
Yeah, no. The question was more specifically towards IPV. I understand that in Physis it would be different, but obviously, there is good. This is a good way to kind of put context into as to why it exists the way it does, because there is, and I've been through your due diligence, right? It is when you are going through it, it is hell on earth, but actually it helps the investors and it helps.
And you will not go through that due diligence. And you will not go through that due diligence with any other angel firm or an early stage investing. And I can guarantee you, not only in India, globally.
Speaking of globally, you've recently reached out within the US also. You did a US tour for IPV. How was that? And how are the US investors different than the US angels, different than the Indian angels?
So it's different, I would say. Yeah, I think the per capita income in India is probably 1/10 or lesser than a per capita income in the US, right? So it's a 10x difference right there on an average per income. The second is US ecosystem is a little bit mature. But two things stood out for me. I don't know how it will pan out, and it's very, very recent, as recent as last week. One, in US, an investor still has to pay a $25,000 to $100,000 per startup to be able to invest. He can't do that. Therefore, professionals probably can't still invest. An average professional still cannot invest in early stage founders in the US. In India or at IPV, we have built a structure where in $30,000, $40,000, which is one ticket size in the US, you can actually fund 10 to 15 startups and build a risk hedged portfolio. Right. So that's one big difference. And therefore, we see a very different way of working available to professionals in the US as well. And therefore, democratization of investing in US. Similarly, we also see large cartels in US, a few set of people coming together and they'll invest, close circles, etc. And that I think probably is another piece to look at in US investing. And of course, the rigor of due diligence, the rigor of post-investment calls, we did not see that in US, to be honest, in early stage investing. Right. And that's why when we started talking to investors there, they said, wow, this is new, this is great. And we would like to experience this process. So we think that these two big things are probably something we would want to explore and test and see how they kind of pan out in international markets as well.
Yeah, that's great and surprising, because I would have expected that in the US at least the rigor would have been higher, if not at the same level. And in India, you were one of the first people who kind of tried to do this democratization of angel investments. The ticket size are fairly low for anybody to come in and enter. Have you seen other people starting to do that now? Will you ever change that to decrease a little bit? Because I can imagine that angel investors themselves are not easy to manage at that ticket size.
Yeah. So I think that's the mission and the goal. And therefore, we want to stay true to it. In terms of ticket size, that can adjust a little bit up and down basis inflation basis. What was 1 lakh worth,
Yeah.
8 years, 7 years back when we started. The similar person, what is 1 lakh worth now? The early stage salaries used to be 5 lakhs that time. Today, the early stage salaries are 12, 13 lakhs, right? So one needs to adjust to that. And I think we'll adjust that. But for now, I think we have only reduced the minimum ticket size, which is 1 lakh rupees now, which used to be 2.5. So an investor can actually start with us at 1 lakh rupees. The idea is that we need to be able to, if we have to create more startups and if we have to help more founders, we will need more investors looking at this asset class. And for another aspect that comes in is when an investor is coming in, he does not need high costs because he's just trying to experiment. And therefore, that cost structure largely shifts to the founder because that's where he's wanting to that help. But when you go to a fund two or Physis, these are experienced investors. They understand the game, and therefore they are willing to pay the cost of running that operation, right? And therefore, the founder doesn't have to pay now. So that's the other perspective. And I would say that we would want to stay true to democratization, help get more investors into this asset class by giving them great returns as well, back and stay, and help the founders, help the country get more innovation, more startups, more jobs, and therefore an ecosystem benefit from that perspective.
Speaking of India as the place to grow startups, what is the one painful truth you think founders don't understand about starting up in India?
I don't think it is painful today, to be honest,
Okay.
versus the rest of the world, right? It's I think it's easier in India than outside, to be honest, for an average founder. Few things I think which are different though. One, um, in India you get paid in rupees, in US you get paid in dollars, and I think that parity is different.
Yeah.
For same work, you will get paid rupees 10 in India, but you will get paid $1 in US, which is next different, and therefore your revenue scale will be 1/10 in India at the same level of operation and the same level of complexity.
Or rather more complexity given the population
And therefore the valuation, right? So that is one different piece. But honestly, if somebody is out there to solve a problem and build with a passion, should not make a difference. I mean, I did not start in US. I came back from US to start in India. And I'm loving it, to be honest, right? So that's one. The second piece I think the founders don't understand is they try to go after valuations too early.
Oh yes.
Right? And I think that they stump themselves there. Because once you go after valuation in the first or second round, then the third or the fourth round is not available to you. It's important to stay on the right curve, which is align yourself to your business, maybe stay a little bit under, so that you continue to get the funding and the firepower to build your passion and the business. The third, and I think more importantly, is a jugaad or a chalta hai attitude. I think that needs to change. That's not there more globally. We need to think long term. We need to think more strategically, and we need to think about all stakeholders, and therefore a little bit of corporate governance also. Uh, right? We as a culture are okay saying forget and forgive or forgive and forget. I think for corporate governance lapses, that should not be allowed. A child should be trained very early on in life that what is unethical, and if you do that, you will get reprimanded. Because we don't teach our children very early in life, later in life also chalta hai, red light drop, cross kari to kya. In the US, even if there's not a red light, there's a stop sign, you will stop, you will take a car break and then you will move.
Yeah.
Try crossing a school bus in the US.
Yeah.
What happens? Right? That discipline and that mindset, I think, which is a part of our culture, needs to change for far better results for our startups and founders in the country.
Actions have consequences.
Yeah.
Essentially, just focus on that. Um, going further deeper into the founder mindset, a lot of founders end up feeling like and end up experiencing fundraising as almost like a full-time job because there is not enough information, because you are busy building your business, you haven't really looked out for whatever reason, but it feels like a full-time job. And how do you think a founder who's trying to fundraise today, what are the first few 3-4 steps they should take?
Fundraising is a full-time job, right? I mean, think about it. Let's take a simple Indian mythology example, and I hopefully relate to it. We say we have a Brahma and a Vishnu and a Mahesh.
Hmm.
This is a trilogy of gods.
Hmm.
All three are required to run. One alone cannot. A
Hmm.
Brahma is a repository of knowledge,
Hmm.
and he needs Saraswati to support him.
Hmm.
A Vishnu is a repository of management and operator, but he needs resources to support him, which is Lakshmi. Third is a Mahesh, who's the doer. He will take the toughest things on himself when it comes, even including Ganga on his head or a wish in his throat, etc., etc. But he needs a persona like a Parvati to support him.
Okay.
Now, you cannot run the business only on knowledge and where you want to go, etc., etc. You
Hmm.
need operations and resources, and that is a full-time job.
Okay.
Right? So just like you have a full-time job of a Brahma and a Vishnu and a Mahesh, these three things are required in any business also. A strategy,
Okay.
operations and execution, and doing the hard work. All three are required. Right? Strategy, management, and operations. Right?
Hmm.
Now, at IPB, what we are saying is you don't need to hire an investment banker. You don't need a connect to us. You don't need to find a wire media. You don't need a reference to be able to connect to us personally, etc. We are trying to solve that pain and that hard work for a founder. All you have to do is apply on our website. Then we take over the process.
Hmm.
Right? We do whatever we have to do with the founder and try to get it out there. We handle the investor base, the process, the technology, the reach outs, and 100 other things. Right? Now, coming to what a founder should do, he should build a good business. He should be respectful for the investors because they are also one stakeholders. The moment you don't respect them, they will not come back again. They'll not come back to the ecosystem. The whole ecosystem. Try to build a long-term business, which is meaningful, profitable, and value creative. The way to do that is not try to do what somebody else is doing well, right? Because then you're going to compete and then you're going to destruct value for both. Try doing something that does not exist, or a significant improvement to a way of doing business. And when they commit to it long term, from themselves, investors, as well as the country.
Okay. I have a couple of questions on this. I understood your analogy, and I think it makes a lot of sense in the sense that you have to give it equal importance and it will require equal effort from your side. However, I genuinely believe that the first role of a founder is to build their business, and everything else is, while important, but has to be at least a step behind. And the question that I asked in terms of a full-time job is more to do with the fact that, like, what is the strategy that a founder can apply to figure out who are the right people? Is thesis the way to go? Looking at the partner, looking at how investors behave, the way to go? What should be the way for me to eliminate the number of people that I need to speak to, and then work with the people that I have selected from investors to kind of move forward?
From a fundraising standpoint, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So two things, right? One, you should have somebody in your team to raise funds. Ideally, a good co-founder who understands this, right? And then work with a platform or work with the investment banker. If you're mature enough and a large business, you can afford to pay an investment banking fee plus the legal due diligence fees, etc., etc. 5% typically to an investment banker, 20 to 40 lakhs to DD fees, etc. Absolutely, find them; they will do the job. If you're doing a good business, they will find you good investors, and you have to talk to them. Other, if you're early stage, talk to a platform like us, for example, right? Where one team works with you, one Spock works with you and handles everything at the back end. And mind you, there's huge amount of stuff to be handled at the back end. So yeah, one of these two channels are available. But if you say that, I'm not going to focus on it, I'm just going to build my business, I should not be focusing on it, then I think you are missing the
So
piece. Yeah.
it doesn't work if you say, I will just build it and then they will come. It's a great philosophy to have, but obviously it doesn't work in real life. I think we've kind of covered what we were both trying to say, and I agree with you. Now, if we were to go back to how you see leadership and how your life experiences have kind of shaped IPV, one of the things that I remember we spoke about multiple times is that you're very into sports, and I think badminton was one thing that you play regularly. How has Sorry?
Multiple sports, yes.
Multiple sports, right? How has sport taught you or helped you, when you get back to the craziness of work?
Things I think. I think it's a fundamental way to learn leadership. Some are individual sports, some are team sports, right? I mean, few learnings. One that I often say is it helps you balance your physical and your mental abilities. It also tells you what you think is not always doable. I may think I'm gonna run 100-meter dash in 3 seconds as a founder, but when I get down to running it, then I know what is required to get there, right?
Yeah.
I may think I'm gonna be a great player, but that, you know, take an example, right? When you run a half marathon, or when I ran, I thought, I had to cut my time down from a 2 hours, 6 minutes to under 2 hours. And it was just feeling like, you have to cut 6 minutes on 2 hours, right? I mean, that's about it. But ask the runners, it takes 3 years of practice to cut those, 6 minutes. And it took 2 years to cut the last 1 minute.
Oh, wow.
So that's what sports teaches you. Muscle building is a slow process. It's a daily process. And you got to do hard work and the boring work when nobody's seeing you, etc. Third is sometimes you win, even when you play bad, because your opponent played even better, even worse.
Universe.
Right? Don't give up.
Yeah.
You don't know when the things will change or the environment will change or somebody else will change. Something else will change to make you better.
Yeah.
While you continue to put in your best. I mean, there was one startup, again, husband, wife, which were running a protein business and they wanted to shut down. I'm like, why are you shutting down? You have a good product. They said, no, we don't think the funding will come. We don't think the market will change. We don't think there's any need. No FMCG is looking to acquire. And I asked them one question on the last day. Are you sure you will not regret? We are willing to fund you. We're giving you another 2 years of runway, but you are not wanting to, but will you not regret? She said no. And lo and behold, 1 year later, the whole quick commerce game changed. Today, protein brands are on top. They're doing 5-6 crores of revenue per month, etc. And that's what happens. So a lot of this learnings come from sports. All right. And I think that is one reason that today IPV has the largest number of sports portfolio in the country among any VCP. Right? And we built it very consciously. In fact, so much so, 3 weeks, 4 weeks back, when the government put a ban on e-gaming, I got multiple calls saying, Vinay, what is the impact on your portfolio? You have 300 portfolio companies. I said, zero. I don't have any company in real money gaming. And they said, why? I said, real money gaming is addictive, but it is socially destructive. But sports is addictive, but socially constructive. So we put all our money here and not there. Right. And that's the difference it makes, when you think differently, or you may want to say sports helps us figure out our leadership and figure out our thinking strategy and a mental and a physical balance in life.
Are there any pickleball companies in your portfolio?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, it has that is one sport that has taken up like crazy. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about you, and this is obviously something that I've experienced personally, right? You are always a phone call away. Like I can, even after all of this time, if I ask you for a meeting, I might get it much later, but you will give me a meeting.
That's true.
So how do you personally manage the level of scale with IPV and with Physis and with so many founders around? What helps?
So I think founders also manage that. Every founder manages that, right? I mean, when they grow the company. And
Yeah.
I think the 2 or 3 principles that I follow is one, have a solid team with me that I need to get something done. I just pass it to them and they get it done. Second is have a good balance of understanding what I don't want to do, what I should not do. And third is when I need to get something done and there is nobody else who can do it, I can give it to, then I do it, but I also train people along with me. so that tomorrow they can do it and tomorrow I don't have to do it, as I make that effort sustainable. But yeah, I mean, we fall short of time all the time. We continue to be stretched, but we continue to be excited by what we are doing and what we're building for the founders and for the nation and for the investors now as well. And try that, right? And it's not that every day is a great day. Sometimes things fall, sometimes startups fail, and investors lose money. But then we go back to an overall scorecard. If we're doing well overall, we are fine.
That's good. I think resilience is always has always been something that you've so beautifully displayed. So I can totally resonate with that. What are the sectors specifically that you're super excited about now?
Because we go after problems and not after sectors. What problems are you solving, right? And if that problem was not solved by somebody else, for example, you guys were solving a problem for furniture for kids, which was not solved by somebody else. So we go after those problems. So I think right now, maybe last 6 months, next 6 months, we have gone after space because that sector opened up. Drones, AI, a few new developments in the healthcare sector, uh, et cetera, et cetera. So we continue to go after large problems, unsolved problems. And I think wherever they appear for us in whichever sector, we'll be happy to go after those problems, provided they're run by great founders and great management.
AI seems to be, of course, is the flavor, maybe the next 5 years. What is a problem in AI that you wish someone would solve?
The problem in AI, I thought AI is here to solve many problems. I think what we need to think about is, are we trained enough on AI? Are we leveraging it enough? And the other thing we need to keep in mind, the costs today might be low of using it, but they will increase.
100%.
I mean, businesses are built on it, etc. But yeah, I think I don't see it as problems. I see it as huge opportunity. And let's continue to leverage it and build on it. I think that's the way I would see it.
Okay. All right. Last one. I know that we're now running on time, but if you had to give advice to your 25-year-old self, what would it be?
Start earlier. I think I sometimes think that I should have started earlier. Um, uh, but I think I don't have regrets, and